Kentucky. It is 10:50 here in Seattle. And how about that win, Big Blue Nation? An absolute masterclass of a performance by Kentucky as they take out Gonzaga in one of the best non-conference games that I can ever remember. Kentucky and Mark Pope becomes only the second coach in UK history to win his first 2 games against top 10 opponents, having beaten Duke and Gonzaga. By the other one's name was Adolph Rupp. He was pretty good. We are here at the Atlas Sports Bar. It is an unbelievable night. Kentucky beats Gonzaga 90-89. It's a local toy dealers KSR post-game show. I got everybody here. I got Drew, I got Shannon, I got Max, I got Ryan. Mario's wandering around taking fireball shots. It is absolutely packed with people. Seattle, the historic Climate Pledge Arena, the site for one of the best games I can remember in the non-conference. The only thing that's even close for me is North Carolina and Kentucky in Vegas.
Yep.
Back the Malik Monk year. That's the only game I can remember like this. Cats down as many as 18 in the second half. Come back and win in overtime. I got a lot of thoughts, but let's each take a quick 10, 20-second hit on what you thought about the game.
What a game. I mean, that was a big shot after big shot. Really exciting game. I cannot believe Kentucky came back and won that game. I really can't. I mean, I thought they were dead in the water, and they found a way with your point guard out, your backup point guard left, and you still found a way to win the game. That's a sign of a good team right there, buddy.
I want to give a shout-out to 2 people. Matt always talks about the people driving home. Good luck to your next day and a half driving home from this one. Hopefully you've got plenty of time to call in. And then the second person, the most underrated person probably of the game, the witch. The witch that gave us the curse-breaking candle.
The
Curse-breaking candle.
The greatest luck we've ever had in our life. Thank you to that witch. She was probably watching. She probably tuned in. Thank you so much.
The KSR curse is broken. So was the rule of 71 tonight.
71
because
broken.
Gonzaga got the 71
Yes,
first.
they did.
Kentucky still came back, showed a lot of fight, a lot of grit. And I think that going zone in the second half was a big difference in the game. It completely threw off Gonzaga's offense, and the game changed at that moment.
Well, I'll just build off of Shannon's point there because it's kind of my point. It's the same recipe as the Duke game. They went down big, looked like they didn't belong on the same court, and then they go into halftime, make the adjustments, come out and look like a completely different team. Well, they have like a 16-2 run there. I mean, Gonzaga was scoring at will early, and then out of the second half with the zone and just completely changed the intensity. We've now seen at least twice. Pope calls it collecting data early. I wish he didn't have to collect so much.
Yes.
But, I mean, they come out as a completely different team in the second half again and get a top 10 win.
All right, I'm going to do I have a million things I could say, but I'm going to do like 5 things. Let's start with number 1. Mark Pope, that's how you coach. Like, that's coaching right there. That is coaching. They come out in the first half, things don't really work. Adjustments at halftime, looks like a different team in the second half. I mean, that's what you hope for. You hope you don't play like they did in the first half when they were down 16, but then you hope to get that in the second half. What an amazing job for Mark. If there were any questions about whether or not Mark was the guy, and there shouldn't have been after Duke, there certainly isn't now. Second, Jackson Robinson. We've been sitting there going, do they have a dude? Do they have a dude? Do they have a dude? He's the dude. All right, he's the dude. Andrew Carr played great too, don't get me wrong, but he's the dude. He had the ball in his hands. I thought the 2 most important plays of the game, actually the 3 most important plays of the game, he made all of them. The 2 passes to start overtime, the one where he found Owe cutting to the basket, the length of the court pass, which Mark Pope said in the post-game press conference, well, that was pretty gutsy. Well, at least it worked.
4 different hands could have touched that. It went through
all of them, and he caught it. And then the shot at the end, which was basically the game-winning shot. All of those made by Jackson Robinson. 3, the defense. I think, Shannon, you hit it with the 1-3-1.
Yep.
I asked Pope in the post-game press conference, what made you play the 1-3-1? He goes, well, when you're getting crushed doing anything else, you might as well try something. But it worked. It started as a 1-3-1, and then it morphed as it went on to a 1-3-1 that would collapse into a man-to-man.
Yes.
And Gonzaga seemed completely baffled by it. I think they did it 7 plays, and Gonzaga only scored on 1, and it was the last one, and it's just because Carr lost his man and gave up an open corner 3. I think if Carr hadn't lost his man, they might not have scored on that all the time. Those were huge plays, Shane, and I think that was a really good point to bring that up. The environment. The Big Blue Nation, they can't hear me right now, but that was awesome. That was a great college basketball environment. 80% of the fans there were probably Gonzaga fans. Probably 20% were Kentucky fans. But those 20% were as loud as the 80%. When Gonzaga would hit a shot, it'd be loud. When Kentucky would hit a shot, it'd be loud. And I got to tell you, I really like Gonzaga fans. They're what you should be. They're passionate, but they're not jerks. Yep. No, I mean it. They're not. They're into it, but they're not jerks. It was a great college basketball environment. I absolutely loved every minute of the game. I was nervous through a lot of it, but especially starting in the second half, that's what you want. And then last thing, to win that game without Lamont Butler. I mean, I think he's our most important player, and he didn't play. And then Kirk Kriisa went out. And I've said, I took a lot of, especially online, mocking about saying Jackson Robinson or Owe should be our backup point guard a lot, and it worked. I'm really sorry to hear it. Looks like Kirk Kriisa has a real injury, that it's not cramps. They said foot or ankle injury. Mark said they're going to do imaging. If you heard his voice, it didn't sound great. It didn't sound great what he was saying. I hate that because I'm going to say this about Kirk. He couldn't guard anybody tonight, but the play he got hurt, if he ends up really hurt and misses the rest of the year, which I hope doesn't happen. Now, I don't have any reason to think that wouldn't. But that last play shows why I do love that kid. He got hurt, and he got back on defense, right? He got back on defense, and if he has a serious injury and he ended up getting back on defense, to me, Drew, that says something about that kid. And I think it says kind of why he's on the team. But when he went out, Jackson Robinson did an amazing job kind of in that point guard. He basically played it the last 10 minutes of the game.
Before we get to Jackson, I'll add one Kerr thing. With about a minute left in regulation, I was looking at the bench. He had been in the back the whole time. A trainer literally carried him out. He was on one foot, didn't have a shoe on. He couldn't get to the bench by himself. A trainer, he had his arm around a trainer, and they carried him and set him on the bench, and he cheered just sitting there awesome. With his foot up. Sounded like it's going to be bad, but the fact that he wanted to come out for that last minute, he was engaged as anyone out there in huddles and on the bench, but he could not stand up on it. I watched him come out.
And my last point, and I wish the people that are here could hear this, but you'll hear it when you listen to it on review, and if you are awake tonight, I know a lot of you are, you'll agree. If you're listening on podcast tomorrow, you'll agree. Here's what I felt like tonight after the game. This is what Kentucky basketball is supposed to be like. We've gotten away from that. Everybody can decide when we got away from it. Some people think it happened the moment the last coach got here. I disagree with that, but I think we can all agree it started to happen in the last few years. It just hasn't been the same. It's been too toxic. It was losing. It was antagonistic. I just want to give you a sense of what it was like in there tonight. Not only all these people having fun, the atmosphere of a road game, it's been like that a lot. But when the game was over, just a few scenes. First of all, I went down on the court. A ton of Kentucky fans stayed for no reason. The team wasn't coming out. They just wanted to be there and celebrate with each other.
Mark Pope actually came up and started hugging people.
He did, but they had already kicked people out at that point. But they literally, all the people just gathered around the Kentucky bench just to say CATS and just hug strangers. I just think that's awesome. That's what this is supposed to be. That's what makes all of this great, are things like that. Watching the fans celebrate, people giving each other high fives, yeah, it can be cheesy, but you know what? That's what makes sports great, and that's what makes community great, and that's why this is special, are moments like that. Second, we win the back. I'm a human being just like anybody else. I haven't been to a press conference in 4 years. I stopped going for a variety of reasons. This was my first one in 4 years. I asked a question, and when it was over, Mark Pope looked at me, and he looked at Jackson Robinson. He goes, Jackson, see that guy right there? He and 5 other dudes drove here from Lexington. And he said, that's awesome. And Jackson goes, are y'all driving back? Now,
jump in.
Look, do you know, just to notice that, right? Just to notice that. That's a cool thing. It was cool for me personally, but it's also just symbolic of how he notices things like that. And then finally, as we were about to walk out, Andy Katz, who I haven't seen in years, was doing an interview with Jackson Robinson and Mark Pope. And I watched, and at that moment there was Mark Pope, his family, the players, Mitch Barnhart, Mark Hill, who's the assistant AD, and they were all hugging and talking to each other. It hasn't been like that in years. You could cut the tension backstage at games with a knife every single game. You'd see one person would see another person and be like, well, they don't like each other. They don't like each other. And it wasn't just Cal. Cal was part of it, but there were other people too. It was just always, he doesn't like her. He doesn't like him. He doesn't do, not tonight. And there was a moment where it just felt like, you know what? When it was going good, everybody was going in the same direction. Now, I don't think this team is as talented as 2010, 12, 15, maybe even 17. But, man, they're fun to watch. And, man, they play hard. And, man, they seem like good kids. And if you can't get excited about watching this group, even when they stink, they stunk in the first half.
Yeah, they did.
It's still so refreshing and fun. And, oh, yeah, they're still pretty good as the fact they've beaten Duke and Gonzaga to start the season, both on neutral courts.
It's a brotherhood that's been missing, I think, between the players, and the fan base, coaches. You got it all. And like you said, these UK fans that live up here, man, it felt like a tournament atmosphere because they don't get to experience that moment anymore, and they got to experience in front of their home people. I mean, it was just a special night to be there.